So thank you everybody for coming out on a cold, rainy Sunday holiday morning. Thank you. Thank you. This is the 30th anniversary of Gargoyles, a fan celebration panel. And I am so excited to first and foremost, we're going to go ahead, we're going to announce all of the panelists, and then we're going to have something for you all to show for about a minute. Now before I start, everyone tends to ask me this. I am Jessica Tseang. I'm an international comics historian. I've also spoken on AMC, the History Channel. I was also an Eisner Awards judge for 2022. For those who do not know, that's basically the Academy Awards equivalent of the Oscars. And it was such an honor to be an Eisner judge. This has been one of my favorite shows since I was young, and I can't wait for all of you guys to hear what the cast and crew and the creative team has to say. So without further ado, Patrick Archibald, can you come up? Woo! Wow. He is the storyboard artist for Gargoyles. So all the beautiful things that you see, he comes up with the concept, and we're going to talk more about it. He has also been on the Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. He's done X-Men, the animated series, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, pretty much everything we loved in our childhood. Thank you so much, Patrick. Right where your name card is. You're gonna move one up. We're gonna be a close clan.
I don't even know my name.
No problem. Next up, we have Brad Rader. How are you? Come on up. You're right next to Patrick. He is also a storyboard artist for Gargoyles, but he has done Bob's Burgers, The Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Emmy Award-winning Spawn, Batman the Animated Series, The Real Ghostbusters, Rainbow Bright, Johnny Quest, Care Bears, Mighty Mouse. Goes back even before our childhood days. Next we have Jamie Thomason. Come on up. He's the casting director, dialogue and voice director for Gargoyles. Emmy-winning Legend of Tarzan, Young Justice, Spirited Away by Studio Ghibli English. Yes, we have somebody over there. Spectacular Spider-Man, Kim Possible.
Yeah.
My other favorites, Lilo and Stitch the series. Very fun. Elisa. Oh my gosh. Elisa Gabrielli. Elisa. So, Elisa, how are you?
Very well.
Got it right this time. She is the voice behind Obsidiana on Gargoyles. Also part of Studio Ghibli's The Tale of Princess Kaguya. And the voice of Tyrande, World of Warcraft series. So, Mr. Spillman, how are you? Thank you. Next we have Frank Paur. Director and producer of Gargoyles, Emmy Award-winning Spawn, Batman the Animated Series, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, The Real Ghostbusters, it can go on and on. Next we have Thom Adcox. How are you? Come on up.
He's awesome, by the way.
The voice of Lexington. more than one Lexington fan out there because they came up and told me yesterday. We're going to bring that up in a bit. You also are Clarion the Witch Boy on Young Justice.
There he is.
You are also Felix the Cat in The Twisted Tale of Felix the Cat as the lead. And live action, and kudos to those who can remember, Falcon Crest.
Yes.
Ryan.
He was the hot tennis instructor. Still is.
Still am.
Like next Wednesday.
And now we also have Greg Weisman. How are you? The creator of Gargoyles. Also Young Justice and the Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And now we're going to play a little something for you all. Those names that you see up there are also some of the esteemed guests that are sitting here. So I really wanted to showcase that. Now, sometimes I just play that late at night for fun, and it still brings me listen.
Still works.
The music, the voiceover by the great, Carl Johnson, who would love to have been here today, was the composer. He greets all of you and says thank you for being here. What is it about? It's just so iconic, almost as if other openings of other 90s cartoons, and it really just swells up in your heart. For me, it brings tears to my eyes. I play it almost every week. Somebody else out there told me earlier that he just actually plays that song on loop in the background while he's studying and doing work, because it's just so amazing. It is consistently named one of the best animated series of all time.
Yeah,
year after year. Every pop culture news site. Due to the complex themes, the storylines, the characters, the story arcs, why do you each personally think why this show has the fan base that it does? Because there was a fan convention for many years. Video games spawned from it. Comic books spawned from it. Why do you think this show is consistently named one of the best series of all time?
Who are you asking?
And anybody can go.
Well, it has nothing to do with the guy at the end. I know that. In spite of him. What'd you say, something about complex themes?
People would say, is it the complex themes? Is it the story arc? Is it the character growth?
Yes.
I think that one thing that was true about this show, for Frank and I in particular, but also everyone at this table, is that we set out very consciously to make the kind of show that we wanted to see on television. Mm-hmm. And what that meant was we invested it with all our passion. We fought over it, but always to make it better. And I think that passion for the property, for these characters, which extended to our voice actors and even Jamie, and our artists and everyone. I had lunch with Mark Vonderheide just last week, who was our audio supervisor in post-production, and he feels that way about the show. I mean, at every level, everyone just tried to make this show as good as they could possibly make it. And I think that commitment and passion shines through for the writers, for the artists, for the actors, for everyone from top to bottom on this show. And ultimately, I think that's what the audience senses, whether consciously or not. And so we also have, honestly, the most fantastic fans on the planet.
That's true. That's true.
And they're passionate about the show, and their passion for it has kept all of us passionate about it as well. And so it's a sort of reciprocal thing. It's this, it's the perpetual motion machine of fandom.
Still going strong?
Sure, yeah.
I can also say that besides the excellence of everybody involved, and as an actor, when you work on projects, this was a project that was very cinematic. There are all these themes of good and evil. It was complex. There was the whole world of detectives and the Illuminati and the world of Obsidiana and the messages of sustainability and good versus evil and the shades of evil and the shades of good. And I think that that resonates as well because it's everything that we still deal with on a daily basis. And I think that the world of Gargoyles really captures that. That was what made it special. And working with these guys, you know.
Yeah, my life is very Shakespearean. How about you?
Gargoyles was, to me, it was very unique visually, thematically. It was unique in its own way in that any themes that we wanted to do, we could go into horror, we could go into drama, we could go into comedy, science fiction. Greg somehow managed to make all of that work in his writing, in blending with his characters, but ultimately, it's about the world building, the character building. When we meet these characters at the beginning, we don't know anything about them. At the end, they're still growing and learning. A lot of shows at that time, the characters were very one-dimensional. And we were determined to make these characters come to life, to fool the audience into carrying that these two-dimensional characters are living, breathing creatures with intelligence. And for the most part, and our fans, God bless them, they knew what we were doing, and they supported all of us, the things that we're planning and such. And we're always trying to hold the bar even higher, which can be a little difficult at times, but we had a great crew to do that. So, I said there's a lot of reasons that the show hangs in there, but for me, it's about the characters. It's always about the characters in the show. World building is fun, action is great, but when you come right down to it, it's whether or not you like the characters or not, or you'll love the characters. Everybody loves the Gargoyles.
For me, can you hear me? Hear my own voice. It was my first animated series, and thanks to Jamie. Jamie picked me out of. I was speaking with my commercial agent. You've heard this story 1,000 times.
Yeah, but you should tell them.
Okay. Yeah, I will.
Great story of genius.
I was talking with my commercial. I had not done any voiceover. I never considered it. It never came up, and I was working a lot commercially and in TV and movies. And I was talking with my commercial agents, and Jamie walked by with Jeff Howell.
Yes.
And they stopped me and they go, God, you have a great voice. Are you represented for voiceover? And I said, no. And they said, well, we'd love to represent you. And that was the start of it. And I read for like a year and didn't book one job. And I was like, what's happening? I thought, well, maybe I'm
Felix the Cat.
What?
Felix the Cat.
I did Felix the Cat. That was right after. But the Goof Troop was actually my first movie.
You're welcome for that too.
Yeah. Can I thank you for me getting fired?
Oh.
Yeah. Remember, Jamie? They kept telling me when I was doing it. I was Goof Troop, the son's best friend on the show, and Jamie and all the directors or whoever else that was in the room said, "Can you try it like Pauly Shore?" They jumped on that because that's who they ended up replacing me with, was Pauly Shore. Jamie called me and he goes, Tom, I have bad news. I go, what? He goes, they're replacing you with Pauly Shore. I was like, oh, great. So working on Gargoyles was just, it was so
We couldn't
good.
get Pauly Shore for
Yeah.
No, that's not true. We probably could have gotten him, but we like this guy better.
So yeah, it was just the best experience, and doing it in a room, in a semicircle, and just with all the other actors, and it was just the best experience, and it's never been repeated. I've never had such a great job as that one. And then, of course, Young Justice League. I'd throw that in.
You brought up something very interesting, and it was the recordings, the way we did the recordings. Normally, recordings are all fractured. Somebody can't make it, or, they're just not scheduled all at the same time. We had them all everybody at the same time.
Whenever possible.
And
They were huge casts.
And it was so helpful. I mean, it has to be.
It's
To
amazing.
be able to play off, someone, other actors, Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, all these other actors and actresses that we had. And it just brought something a little extra to the performance. It brings these characters alive.
Yeah, you were talking about, ultimately it's about the characters, people falling in love with the characters or whatever. And one of the, I don't know, lame quotes I say all the time in animation is that, what these guys do, this one and that one down there. Everything in animation is controlled to the frame, to the 24th of a second, except for what they do. And so I say they breathe the breath of life into these characters, and it's really true. Yeah, you're welcome. How would you guys finish this phrase? If I'll start it, and then we'll do a call and response. So if you heard the first half of the phrase is, "My angel
of the night."
It's things like that are really memorable. Those words typed on the page are, pretty good. Hearing it come out of Keith David's mouth, and what he brings to it, that's what makes it really special. So, the greatest cast of all time in any animation.
Yeah!
That was good, but a little quicker next time.
Pick up the kills, do it again.
Less hesitation.
Brad and Patrick, so together, your credits alone surpasses War and Peace. You guys already heard some of them from me earlier. A lot of what you guys do is to bring the vision of what the director kind of wants, in the stages to eventually it goes down the pipeline to what we see. As you guys are storyboarding, was there a moment where you two felt, what, this show is different than all these other shows that I've been storyboarding and working on?
Yeah, for myself, definitely. There was a grit and a realism to it. I'm sorry, can you hear that?
Yes.
I was going to say there was a grit and a realism to it. Before that, animation meeting was for Saturday morning, and at that point, the afternoon blocks and whatnot. Tended to be kind of funny games and whatever, but morals and great writing and story arcs and the characters. This is a different one. That's why I think Ray and Frank mentioned it. Sometimes we kind of butt heads and it's like, no, it's like this. It's like, yeah, but it should be like that. It's always got better and better and better. One up.
Greg, butting heads?
With Frank of all people?
Brad, what about you?
Well, actually, I just got done working on Biker Mice from Mars. And I liked that better because I thought Gargoyles was really kind of like serious and pretentious, took itself way too seriously. And I didn't understand the scripts. I mean, their characters, I didn't understand their motivations or why they were reacting in such certain ways. And I was complaining to Bob Klein, one of the directors, about a script I just got. This doesn't make any sense, and why are they doing that? And he said, those are all really good questions. He beckoned me to follow him down the hall of the Triangular Disney building, or the Academy Arts building in North Hollywood, and turned a corner, introduced me to Greg Weisman. Greg, here's Brad Rader. He has some questions for you. No, Bob walked away, left me with Greg, but never. This is the first time I met Greg. And usually the writers and us artists are separated. And I'd build up a lot of resentment and attitude about animation writers. And so I was kind of like, and I asked told Greg my concerns. He said, oh no, that's because of this, this, and this, and that. This reaction is like back in this installment so-and-so, this happened, and it'll play out in installment, 10 installments in the future. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, that'll work. Yeah, no, I can totally see that. No, cool. And I left the room and going, well, okay, this works. I was, a cinema buff, and so I'd watch movies in my spare time and freeze frame and try to get, sequences, how they communicated, what they were communicating, analyze it. And so I was like trying to put stuff like that in my storyboards. I'd watch Mildred Pierce, and there was a scene where the door opens and you see the shadow of the character through the doorway before the character enters the camera field. And it's, oh, cool, so I would use that one. So I could just play around like that. It's fun.
Further to Brad's point, and a similar story, remember there was a big, our offices were in the TV Academy building. And there was a big theater there, and they were having some big event for the entire division, I can't remember. But this part I remember very well, because someone who had been doing it for a very long time, not you, someone else, it was a Q&A, and someone asked a question. Yeah, hey, when are we going to hire like a real voice director for Gargoyles? Because these tracks are just like, they're so slow. And I remember thinking, oh my, I'm getting fired today. And come to find out, we were doing it right. Some took a second to get it sometimes. And so, I mean, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of swimming upstream against the sort of the norm, and I think one of the things that was universal on the entire crew was, I don't know, I call it dare to care. People putting themselves out and defending, something which is part of what led to some butting of heads, but that's how some of the greatest stuff, comes about. Dare to care enough to keep pushing, keep trying. And the show, I think, succeeded.
Elisa, there are fandoms everywhere, from Star Wars to Star Trek. There are characters that maybe show up for a few episodes, even if just a background, and fans will remember their exact name, try to hunt down the figure, talk to other friends about it, create forums about it. When did it hit you that you are part of a legacy show? That your character, that when I was talking with friends about who's going to be on the panel today, they're like, oh, I love her character, Obsidiana. Yeah, I've been looking for figures. Like, they knew exactly who the character was.
So like, how many stalkers in before you did?
So when did it hit you that you are part of like a legacy show that fans know almost every character inside and out?
I think it hit me. I knew I was part of a very important show, just being able to take part when I was doing the show, because the writing was so good and the people I was working with and have been blessed to work with since then were just so incredible. It felt so collaborative. It really felt very different. Spectacular Spider-Man also had that kind of feel, the same thing, that kind of collaboration. But so I knew that I was part of a legacy in a very little way. I think it was when Greg invited me to a convention once. And I also did Maria Chavez, Detective Chavez, for one of the episodes of Revelations. Rachel Tipton started her out. And somebody came up with like a card with her name on it and asked me to sign it. And then later on somebody like auctioned me off to have dinner with somebody for Obsidiana. And I was like, oh, okay. So, but since then I've seen like the talks online and all the deep dives into the character. I mean, I love the character of Obsidiana. I think she's Mother Earth, like a very fierce Mother Earth. I'm always waiting for Gargoyles to come back. I think we could use another show like this so much.
That was good, much better reaction time.
Well, we're friends, we relate.
You know, Greg, I have a question for you and then Tom. Greg, when you started this out, did you see in its future a fan-run convention, people on forums trying to look for you, ask you questions? You've got a successful Kickstarter through Dynamite Entertainment. Yeah, yes, the people backing it. Did you know this was going to be its future?
Well, I started working on this show in 1991, and I didn't know what the internet was. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but it didn't exist the way it is today. And so the short answer is no, I could not have anticipated all this, but I will say that even at the time, when we were making the show, I knew that this was something special. This was something unique, both on all sorts of levels. Just the conceptually, the idea of Gargoyles coming to life, which was, you know, original. And Disney didn't do a lot of original properties back then. It was always like, okay, here's Chip and Dale, what can we do with them? And we made a really fun show with Chip and Dale. Or here's Baloo the Bear, what can we do with Baloo? And we made a really great show with Baloo the Bear. But it was not a place at the time, at least, where they were looking for original properties. And it took us years to sell this show to Michael Eisner, who was chairman of the Walt Disney Company. I had to pitch 3 versions of the show to him before he finally said yes. But even back then, I knew this would be the kind of show that it would be nearly impossible for me to duplicate. It was the first show I ever produced, which I did with Frank, and first show that I'd ever been a showrunner on with Frank, and even then I knew this was a unique experience, truly unique. Then, as we kept sort of, when the show ended, I went to this thing in New York, which was a signing for cells. Because back then, before computers were what they are today, we actually had animation cells. And so this was a signing for cells, and it became this huge Gargoyles party in Queens. And it was nuts. And Keith David was there with me, and a guy in a big walk-around Goliath suit, and Gary Mariano was there, who, that was when I met Gary, who's a super publicist, and I was just sort of blown away, and then I thought, wow, this is going to have a life that goes beyond, and even then I couldn't have imagined today. Like 30 years later, would this group of people be here to talk to this group of people and see us say it? I never would have seen that coming. Whether we'd all still be alive.
It's such a special and unique show that a fan brought not 1, but 3 copies for them later to sign. Like, only multiple versions of it is a true sign of a fan.
Well, they're different seasons, to be fair.
Okay. I didn't look. Tom, I know that the figure in front of you is Goliath.
Yes.
So the story behind that is because Lexington just came out. Several people went out to go procure it, and the retailer would say, I'm so sorry, Lexington immediately sold out. but we have Goliath, if you guys want to purchase it and buy it. Still a great character. Did you know that he was going to be a fan favorite? Because everyone tries to kind of, everyone's attracted to the leaders, like Superman or Captain America. But I've spoken to multiple people, and there are several actually in the audience, where you're like, so Keith David does great on Goliath, and they would say, no, we really like him. My favorite's actually Lexington.
Do you guys like Lexington?
They'll say it like that.
That's what we're talking about. Picking up the keys.
Like, what is it about your character that you feel bonds with so many fans who are like, we love everyone in the Manhattan Clan, but Lexington is my favorite?
Because I'm so cute.
Stick to the character, Tom.
I don't know. I loved Lexington too, and when I got it, I didn't know what I was doing pretty much. I mean, thank God for Jamie and for Greg and for Frank, for all the people in the booth there.
For Polly Shore not being available.
Polly Shore. Frick. Oh, I swear too much. I'm sorry. What was the question again?
What do you feel about Lexington that bonds so well with fans that they pick him as their favorite?
Well, I think a lot of the fans were also in love with technology, and Lexington was a big techie, which was strange for me because I'm completely a technophobe. I'm so clueless. You should see me trying to send auditions from my booth. It's not fun. And when if I do a booth directing, if they're directing me and I'm in my booth, they're like, fix the treble, and I'm like, what? So I just think Lexington's energy and his love of technology and his all-around spirit, I think that fans got behind him.
He's got a childlike enthusiasm.
Yes.
I think that when you're an audience for the show,
And that was
feel about the show.
Yeah, and that was the direction.
He's a sweetheart.
Thank you, Greg.
Again, we're not talking about Tom.
Lexington.
Oh, Eric.
Tom.
So that's my answer.
Tom's a sweetheart too.
Yes.
I want to say that actually what you guys see here is genuine. I've been doing panels for a very long time. A lot of people very well, they sit together for an hour. They actually love each other behind the scenes, which is, sometimes we'll talk and Greg is like, oh, I love Tom. And Tom's like, Jamie's coming, that's great. And then Patrick is like, is Brad coming? They're so excited to speak about each other, and that really shows and through the show and the testament also behind the scenes, actually, because fans can also sense that as well.
That's great.
Jamie, something that I've actually heard that somebody has said is sometimes you'll watch a show, whether it is English dubbed or just another an American animated series, and they'll be like, oh, I love the way all the characters sound, except for that one. The voice just doesn't quite match what I imagine the character would sound like.
Yeah, that person's wrong.
But for your show, no notes. Zero complaints. So, how did you get that amazing performance out of all of them that fans and just, new fans are like, Goliath sounds like what I did, Damona sounds like, when I look at them, that's the voice that I hear. Lexington sounds like what I imagine. If I looked at a picture of them, that's the voice that I hear. How did you get it so pitch perfect?
Well, the term genius gets bandied about. It was both.
This is why I never compliment you.
I'm so unaccustomed to it. It was, on the one hand, one of the most arduous casting tasks I had done, certainly, and still to this day. On the other hand, in a lot of ways, it was really easy. You want to look like a brilliant director, by the way? You want a brilliant director? Just cast the right people. You go to casting, and then you take all the credit for, how did I drag that performance out of them? Well, we cast the casting process was how many years long? No, several months, many months. And it was interesting. For those of you who know, casting happens obviously before you go into production. It's really early on. And one of the things that the casting process did was it created a buzz in town with these acting folks. Because people heard about how great the scripts were. Just the audition sides were pulled from the first few episodes. And they're really fantastic. Still to this day, if I guest at like a workshop, I'll bring those casting sides as an example of sort of perfect casting sides. And they were longer than most, but the writing, you could tell the writing was really good, even in just a few paragraphs, and that buzz started making its way through town. So it started getting easier and easier to get people to come into audition who. Keith had never done a cartoon before. Clancy Brown had never auditioned for something like this before. A lot of people, a lot of firsts, on this show. And again, I'm not saying I gave Clancy Brown's career, but I'm just saying he'd never done it before. I'm just saying. Yeah, and it took so long. And there were some characters I've cast immediately, and I think Thom was one of them. I said, I know a guy. I got a guy. Trust me, he's got a unique sound and vibe for this. And Tommy came in, and maybe we probably read other people because they were already scheduled. I don't remember reading anyone else, but I'm sure we must have. Marina Sirtis.
What about Ed Asner?
Ed Asner. Ed Asner did one of my favorite auditions. He came in, nailed it. By the way, we didn't say his name in the spec, but there was a specific line in the spec. You have to be really old. Ask your grandparents about a show called Mary Tyler Moore, and there was a character on it, Lou Grant. And Lou Grant sort of famously said to Mary, "Oh, you got spunk. I hate spunk." And in the character description for Hudson, it said, "Hudson hates spunk." I wasn't sure Ed would come in to read, and he did. He came in, and he was shockingly great at it. And he had, done a couple of great reads, and we were almost done. And then we just sort of said, "Hey, before you go, could you do that in a Scottish accent?" And boom, no crap, just boom. Oh yeah, and did it. And we were giddy. So there were some of those that were like, "Oh, Marina, Tommy," and then there were others. I mean, we saw so many people for Goliath, so many, and it came down to, and there were a lot of them, fantastic actors. And it came down to Clancy Brown and Keith, and they were both great. I remember when Clancy came in, he came in character, and I'm sitting, this far away from him, but there's glass in between us. Safety glass, fortunately, because he was in character, and so he was looking at me like this, and I'd say, "Hey, could you try maybe on this one?" Oh my God, this guy's gonna kill me. This guy's gonna kill me. He'll look through the glass and kill me. I'm not calling him to tell him that he didn't get it. Anyway, he was great. He was great. And then this clown named Keith David. And he said, "Well, I guess we're done there." After 6 short months of seeing hundreds and hundreds of people. But one of my favorite lines associated with the casting of this was after the process, because again, it went on for months, and we read just tons and tons and tons of people. Agents kept calling me and asking, "So, who'd they go with? Who'd they go with?" And, we hadn't made final decisions yet. And I was talking to one of the agents who said one day, when people call me, I just, I stopped telling them, I'll find out. I just said, "They went with real ones." "Who they did for Gargoyles?" "They went with real ones." And here's Tommy. Fagerbach was another that was sort of boom. So Tommy, great, boom.
I mean, part of it was we didn't know literally. Yeah, we had conversations. What do gargoyles sound like?
Teenage gargoyles.
Right. And so
They're huge.
Tom came in and read for Lexington and nailed it right out of the gate. I'm not saying he was the only one who read, but he was the only one we really considered. And then Bill Fagerbach came in and did the same thing for Broadway.
Yeah, he's my first out.
And they both have some gravel in their voice, though pitched very differently. So then I was a huge fan of Jeff Bennett's from way back. So I just said, okay, we've got Tom for Lex, we've got Bill for Broadway. Let's just bring Jeff Bennett in and just have the two of them talk and tell Jeff, do something in the middle.
Between these two. Because we weren't
Then
finding it was
that
hard to find
defined
someone.
what a gargoyle was. They had to have some gravel in their voice.
But still sound young.
Right.
Yeah, it was a tricky bit. But it worked out. It worked out.
I have so many more questions left for them. However, we're going to open the floor for a few minutes for questions from the audience. I do not see where the microphone is. It is bright as day. Okay.
There we go.
Anybody have any questions? Please step up to the microphone.